Welcome to the Dad Squad Solutions podcast, where we're made up of two dads and one aspiring dad. I'm going to let Chad introduce today's special speaker and our topic. Chad, won't you take it away, please?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a very, very special treat because this episode is one of our most special episodes because we're talking about something very, very important. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you guys our guest speaker today. His name is Jeremy Tan, and he is from Singapore. He is currently the owner and the founder, CEO of Global Facility Management. So they offer B2B cleaning services to mall and big companies as well. So he is also a father of 3 kids. And Jeremy himself has also studied in Taiwan before. So also a multicultural person and very successful entrepreneur here with us today. The topic today is all about entrepreneurship or work success, the balance between that and having a successful family or having a healthy home, and especially from the perspective of a father or a dad. And so I think many of our audience and subscribers, listeners in the future may be very interested in this topic because we live in a day and age where there's a lot of talk about grinding, right? Let's grind, let's be ambitious, let's have a vision for the future and let's pursue our dreams. But at the same time, many of those same people, they also want to have family and they also want to have kids. And so how do you balance all of that? And how do you become successful in both of those worlds without compromising too much or without sacrificing either one, the work and the family?
Sacrifice is quite a lot for me, right? So at first, I met my wife when I was like 22, 23, and we have kids when I was 26. And that's actually when I was still working, right? So initially, I didn't sacrifice much because back then I still didn't have kids. The main part of me sacrificing is when I stopped working and start being a entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur already requires a big part of sacrifice. And luckily, my wife, she was understanding and she knows how hard it is to be an entrepreneur because I usually tell her what picture a life being free and being financially stable, especially if we have kids, right? So she's quite understanding, and which is very lucky for me. I think that plays a big part of me being able to pursue my entrepreneurship to the next level. The sacrifice is a lot because when you start being an entrepreneur, right, you're gonna have nights. You can't go back to have dinner. It's not an 8 to 5 anymore. Sometimes your kids expect to see you at 6. And sometimes they won't be able to see you. So as a father and as an entrepreneur, I think you have to either go with either one, right? You cannot have both, right? Especially in the early stage of an entrepreneurship. So that time, because I pursue our future, I chose entrepreneurship more than family first. Because that time my kid was like, what, 1, 2? To me, they don't remember anything, right? They remember my age before 5. Although it's important to me, I think their future, because I want to invest in their future, I have to start investing in my time in the entrepreneurship first.
So there are a lot of men who are looking at being an entrepreneur. And what you just said was kind of like a wow to me because there's a lot of dreams that men have when they say, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So automatically that makes things easier. Can you tell us or talk about that transition of like when you went from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, the emotional journey that you went on during that time, especially when it came to your kids? Because I can imagine going from seeing your kids a certain time to not, and that sacrifice there emotionally. So what did that feel like transitioning?
At first, when I was working, right, I always thought entrepreneurship is so easy because I always see my boss coming to work Like he's not doing anything, right? Can I swear? So I thought, like, is this what a boss is like? And to me, like, so I can do a lot better than him. So at first, I thought entrepreneurship was super easy until I started doing it myself. And at first, I thought I was a Superman or something, because, but as you progress, right? I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs will know. As you progress, you start to find problems in your decisions, everyday decisions in your company. Not only that, you have to worry. TK was talking about having kids while doing entrepreneurship, right? So that time was quite hectic, because at first my mind was thinking like it's so easy, and then it's hard, and then it's super hard, and then is this even possible? And then I had a breakdown. It's very, it's a lot to take in, right? Because I believe a lot of entrepreneur at first thought it was easy until they hit a brick wall. And I think everybody should hit this wall, especially when you have kids, right? Because after you go home, you're stressed. Your whole day you've been making quite big decisions. You go home, you have to put on a smile, depending on what kind of family you want to have, right? You either put on a smile or you don't.
Right.
You can go back and you can suck it up, be there for your kids, or you can go back and just go to your room and you know become the stress that you are, right? So I always choose. I'm not a perfect dad. I wish I could tell you I go home every day with a smile. I don't, right? But only there was one time, because my daughter, my eldest is my daughter, right? She's 7 now, 7, 3, and 1. So I used to go back home very tired, because my daughter, last time when I first become an entrepreneur, when I go home, she doesn't really care about me, right? When she saw me, she doesn't, hey, dad. And at first I thought it was normal, but so every time I go back home, it was like low energy, right? Then one day I saw a video, and that video shows that the wife was very happy that the husband came back home, and she was so full of energy. Hey, husband, you're back. Come eat. And when the daughter saw the wife doing that, the daughter starts to do that too. Then to me, that was life changing, because I showed my wife this video. I wish you could do that to me. And then after that, my daughter did that to me. And now every day when I come back home, my 2 sons and my daughter saw me and they, Papa, that gave me energy, that put a natural smile on my face. So I don't have to fake my smile anymore. These are natural smiles when they call me.
Mr. Jeremy, I have a quick question as well. You said that you met your wife at the age of 22, and I feel like as a young man at the age of 22, you had a idea of what success looked like when it comes to business. You had an idea of what success looks like when it comes to your family as well, right? And
Yeah.
like you said, you didn't go home with a smile very often in the beginning, of course, because it kind of felt like maybe what you had imagined as success for your family at the time was not pinning out the way it was. But how does becoming a father change the way you define success, both in business as an entrepreneur right now and in your family life? Absolutely.
I'm still a long ways ahead. And my future of being successful is like, I can spend time with family. That's it. If I can afford to spend time with my family, it means I am successessul, right? Right now, I can't afford to do that yet, because my 3 kids, they have to go to school. They have to be fed, right? I cannot afford to not go to work and to not work. Whenever I could spend time with my family, to me, that's success. Kai, you mentioned at first like what success to me looks like, right?
Right.
When I was younger, because my dad, he's quite successful in his sense, right? To me, he's quite successful. And he has a lot of rich friends. So I got my success role model from his friends. His friends, like, I never see them work. You know, they play golf, and you know, they just sit down and chat, and like top a lot of things together, right? So at first, to me, that was success, right? After that, I thought success was easy. Was not doing anything. And last time when I was young, I used to hate work. Whenever I feel like I need to work, I feel this deep disgust. So I thought that was success. I don't need to work. But as I grew older, work is the meaning of life, right? As a man, okay, back to topic. As a man, we feel like we're a man because we could provide. So the more we provide to society, to your family, to whatever, the more we provide, the more we feel like we're the man, right? So after that, work becomes natural to me, and I don't despise work anymore. That's my gist of success, right?
Now, I like what you said because I feel like you explained and you touched on a few points that we have spoken about right here on the episodes in our previous episodes, right? As a father who is successful and your kids don't look at success measured by what you provide for them, right? And they look at it as the quality time that you spend with them, for example, right? How would you try and explain to your children that your success and what they seem to have an idea of what success is in their mind might be different? Or how would you explain your version of success to your children because they might be seeing success as different from what you see success as?
I have never told my kids about like what success looks like. I don't know what success looks like to them. And I don't think they understand what success looks like, right? Because
You'd be surprised. I would challenge you to go ask them. You'd be very shocked what kids will say success is in their measure. Right.
very interesting. Okay, I'll try that tonight. My 7-year-old is very financially like she keeps every penny. She doesn't want to spend. She only spends my money. So I think her success would be around financial. But yeah, I'm gonna ask her tonight. Yeah.
So, hey, I want to deviate just a little bit. So, one of the things that I have heard a lot of men talk about is yes, they want to go for this dream. They want to go for, making their own business, buying their own house, putting their kids to the best school, so on and so forth. But a lot of times, there's not much conversation about the toll it takes on the dad.
Yeah.
And so, or the toll it takes on the man. And so I want to ask you, in the midst of developing your company and having your family, where do you find are the heaviest moments where you feel super stressed? And how do you take rest in the midst of that stressful period?
Well, I can tell you the stress level was insane, right? It's even more stressful than whatever you have ever encountered. You either become a successful entrepreneur or a failure entrepreneur, right? To me, there's in between, but that's a very mediocre entrepreneur, right? It's either become the top or not, right? I went through quite a few super stressful moments where there was even a moment where I almost took my own life. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but this was true. True story, right?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
When you fail as an entrepreneur and your kids have to go to school, your wife starts barking because she have no money to buy food. Your company employees are screaming because I know that if I don't pay their salary tomorrow, there's going to be a big problem. And I have more than 100 employees, right? So these background noises keeps coming in. I have no money for my employees, my wife, my kids. They have to pay tuition fee. My credit card I have to pay credit cards. My car. It was a very dark moment in my life, and it was a few years back, and I still could remember this feeling. So after I got past that moment, I told myself never again. Right? Not never again. Not as in like I know that I would not go through this mode. Never again is like I have to plan how I spend my money, right? I have to have backup plans because I don't have. I used to like spend whatever I want, like go to massage, After that, I have to control myself because that was a very painful experience for me. And it's even painful when you have to go back home and your kids are sleeping and you look at them and you said, I might not have money for you to go to school. That's a very sad, painful moment for me. And so I cope. I don't know how I coped with that stress last time. Yeah, but now everything's okay, and I still have stressful times, but it's not as much as before. So how I cope is I go to massage. Like, so that's my go-to. I don't smoke. I drink, right? I drink very little, but I do drink. So yeah, I that's how I cope. And when I go home, my son starts calling my name, Papa. And when he starts calling my name, the sister, the younger kid, that is 1 year old, calls my name, and I'm so happy. That's my anti-stress.
I am so happy that you got to share your testimony with us in just that hard time of your life as well. I just want to press a quick button. In that incident where you were dealing with this much pressure, this stress, and all of that, how do you think, as a man, having gone to, for example, seeking professional help, did you seek professional help? Was the massage the only thing that you did? How would you advise young men listening today who are going through a similar hard time, who are going through mental hardship, for example, trying to balance work life and family life, and knowing that they are not at a point where they can provide for their kids right now? How would you advise them to deal with that stress? I know you might not have a personal way that you might have dealt with it that you can give, but what do you think? How do you think you can advise young listeners out there to deal with this kind of pressure, since you have gone through as well?
The reason to me I have stress is because I have no plans. I leave decisions undecided, right? If at that time I would have decided that I have money, I have financial issues, right? If that time I would have decided that I can leave my credit card aside, I can leave my some parts aside. I have to quickly pay my workers first. If that time I've made a decision like that, my stress level would fall down by half. Stress to me is uncertainty. If I'm uncertain about an outcome, I will be stressful. I just have to make a quick decision what I would do, and if it happens, and if it doesn't happen, that's fate to decide, right? But I know I'm gonna make this decision right now, and usually the decisions that we make is the outcomes that we'll get, right? So I know that I couldn't pay for my credit card, but it's not life threatening to me or my family or my business, and I have to quickly pay for my business first. Another topic aside is professional help. I seek professional help from my dad's friend, who's also an entrepreneur. Like everybody's going through hard times, right? During COVID, and they have their own problems. I have my own problems. I wouldn't disregard professional help. But in a business sense, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I really hope I could find a really good mentor, right? I really hope. But and I know in the future I would find a really good mentor. But right now I still haven't found one. But I know he's out there, right? But it's just the timing issue. I have definitely seek a professional help before regarding the relationship between me and my wife. It was just last year. We almost broke up. And I know that if I don't seek help, she was gonna go back to Taiwan, and that was that. She was gonna bring back the kids. She doesn't care, you know. So I said no. I have to find counseling. We didn't see eye to eye. I couldn't stand talking to her. She couldn't stand talking to me. So we had to find a middleman. And there was one near my house, which is around 10 minutes. I called them. I said, do you provide counseling for couples? And they said, yeah. So I arranged a date and time with my wife. That was the best money spent I've spent that year. Hands down. We talk with our emotions. They don't. They don't care about our emotions, but they just want to know how we feel. My wife understands how I feel, and vice versa. I understand how my wife feels, right? So the middleman is just like that. So the more I understand my wife, and the more my wife understands me, that's how we connect again. And that day was like that was life changing. I spent around 5,000 baht for 2 hours. It's quite expensive.
A lot of guys don't understand the value that marriage counselors have. Sometimes we feel like, oh, I can just teach my wife. If I could just teach her how to think like me or to do the things as me, then she'll get it. And then she's on the other side. If I could only get him to feel the way I do, or even see the things I need him to see, then he will. So speaking two totally different languages, but then when you have the marriage counselor, they are, well, at least for most of the time, well versed in both languages, and so they can interpret both languages and also teach you how to speak the language.
Fantastic. Yeah. That the one you said also, like they will teach us how to find out what the other side is saying. And I could understand more. Even now, the lessons that I learned at that day, I still use it now.
Obviously, both of you are trying to gain that level of success, right? And try to stability. But you both had two different values. And those values started to kind of buck heads. What value did you hold that you think she didn't understand at the time, but she does now? And what values do you think she held that you feel now you understand her?
I'm a very traditional man. She's a very modern woman. So as a traditional man, we value what a traditional wife would be, right? A stay at home. She takes care of the kids. Um, she cooks, she cleans. So I have to adjust myself. She also have to adjust herself. And she, as a because I know she likes to go out and hang out, right? I know she likes to, party. She likes to be with her friends. But I know she has changed herself for me. I have changed myself for her. And for her, right? She said she likes to go out. We used to fight a lot because she said, "Why can I go out but not her?" Right? Why can I go out and drink with my friends, but she has to stay at home with her kids? And I told her because we're different, right? I could go through the whole story, but it's gonna take a while. But the gist of it was, in the end, I told her, right, like everyone has their responsibilities. My responsibility is to bring bread at home, right? To provide safety, to provide financial, and your responsibility is to keep the house in good condition. So that's my take, right? I told her, and I don't mind you going out. You can go out, but you have to bring me. It's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust the men around you because I'm a man myself. I know how men think. You could be the most innocent woman in the world, the most strict, but in the end, if there's one bad guy, how girls are with bad guys, I don't buy all that. I don't buy all that. She understands my requirements and I understand her requirements, right?
Absolutely.
I provide for her right now. She could buy anything she wants, obviously under a certain range, because right now I'm still fighting. But she doesn't have to be financially scared anymore. She has a maid. I provide maid for her. And in the future, we are going to have a driver and we're going to have a cook. That's all the necessities that we need. And she could basically go shopping. And she shops every day by Shopee or Lazada, right? I have never told her that you bought too much. No, never. Because I know this is how she make herself not stressful, right? This is how she makes herself happy.
Now, just a follow-up question to what TK asked you, right? We spoke about just now about healthy boundaries that you have put in place that help you, for example, and your wife balance each other based on habits or values that you guys both held on to, right? And one of those boundaries that you have put in place is the fact that if you go, then I go, right? What about all those men out there who are homebodies and don't enjoy going out? What kind of boundaries do you think would be healthy boundaries to put in place to protect the family time and still be able to run a successful business, for example?
You mean guys that don't like to go out and still run a successful business?
Yes. just to protect themselves, whether it's to protect themselves with the family, with the wife, or any boundaries that they put at home or for themselves.
If she wants to go out in the morning, in the afternoon, I'm all fine with that, right? She just cannot go at night and to the bar, to the club. No.
Yeah.
But if her friends here, she wants to hang out in the morning, in the afternoon, or even dinner. I'm all good with that.
I feel like there's a balance, right? I think there's a healthy balance of saying, hey, I, as your husband, don't feel comfortable with you being in a bar or a club where there are men that go there to seek for beautiful women like yourself who I have acquired.
What if she said no?
Oh, well, then we have the whole conversation. We got to pause the video for a second and not really talk. It is us talking about what makes you comfortable and what doesn't, what you don't feel comfortable with, and then compromising where we can compromise. Now, if you know me going to the bar and I'm drinking a whole bunch and I come back and I'm just like sloshed, if that makes my wife feel uncomfortable, then I need to say, okay, what am I doing to build my home? What am I doing to leave the legacy for my wife and for my children, right? And for her, it's the same thing. Like, what if she goes out with her friends and there's a whole bunch of acts and stuff that they're doing that just aren't appropriate for a married woman? Then what legacy are you leaving? And I feel like that would be the conversation that we would both be having to make sure that I'm not, sitting at home, like biting my nails, like, what in the world is she doing right now? Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe, you know? So that's the added measure of stress that adult conversation needs to have. And again, this is my opinion, rather than saying, okay, husband, you're not allowed to go here. You're not going there anymore. Okay, wait. Let's talk about it. Let's see why you're upset. And then maybe we can avoid certain actions. So I know some men like who do go to bars and they cap it at a drink or two and then they're done.
I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding there, right? Being that, like, it's not like she said she wanted to go. I said no. Like, and I don't say it so aggressively. No, like I told, like what you said makes sense. At first, initially, I told her the reason why, right? So I also use that approach, the soft approach. Obviously, I would go through the soft way first. If it doesn't work out, then I have to use some authority. And obviously, it's never a good thing to always use authority, right? But as a husband and as a father, their safety is my responsibility, right? So obviously, I still have to use authority sometimes, even with kids. At first I could tell them like good in a very kind voice, the most loving voice you ever hear, and I tell them no, right? Why no? And then they throw a fit. Then that's where my firm no is gonna come in. Right? So it's a step-by-step process. On another note, right? I know that I've been depriving my wife of fun, as in like nightlife fun, drinking fun. And in the back of my mind, like I promise her, like after all this shit is done, hey, I'm sorry, all this thing is done, all this bad thing is done, I'm gonna bring her out to other countries. We're gonna have a very, very nice nightlife together. We're gonna go out, leave our kids at home with the mates, with the grandma, grandpa. It's just gonna be the two of us, the honeymoon. So this is the promise I made to myself, right? In a few years' time, we're gonna have very, very wonderful honeymoons together. In a few years' time, when everything is going good, financially stable, everything, I'm gonna bring her out, 1 year, to party, to play, to go hiking. Because I know she loves hiking. To Switzerland, she loves those grasslands. Yeah, that's my promise to myself, to her actually, because I know how much she has sacrificed.
All right, so I'm gonna be little advocate here, right? Devil's advocate for one quick second. So you said the words "I deprive." I know that typically that comes from the mindset of or the vocabulary of those that are very traditionally minded. And guess what? Listen, I am all for a lot of the traditional mindset. I'm not like an advocate for the modern mindset either. I'm kind of a in between. But I do know that there are some aspects of the traditional mindset that have caused some potential stress or strain in marriages. And that's why we have this whole soft conversation, the I feel statements from the modern side, because in the traditional sense, they never do that. So I'm interested to kind of hear, maybe another episode. I don't know. But I'd love to hear what values you think are great in a traditional mindset. Have you sourced anything that could have been a little more destructive from a traditional mindset? Maybe if you have one right now, maybe you could think about that and share that.
I have actually quite a lot right now, not just one, but I could share one. So to me, like a traditional mindset. But okay, just before that, I want to correct you. Yeah, when I said I was depriving my wife of nightly fun, it's not that I don't want to give her nightly fun, right? It's I know that she has to do her responsibilities. I have to do my responsibilities. So I didn't give her the encouragement to go to have parties, right? Okay, so that's my take. It's not being traditional, it's nothing, right? So the first take of the advantage of being traditional and being modern, right? First is we have to divide. What do you mean traditional? What do you mean modern? Right? And this topic could be in another episode, but right now the big takeaway is traditional men, did the kids listen to them? The kids, they're the main part of the family. So if they're not even afraid of their dad, who are they to afraid of? That's why a lot of modern families are breaking down, even in society, because they're not even afraid of their parents.
So here's the things where you use the words fear the parents, does that produce holistic human beings that respect, love, honor, and show kindness in various ways towards their parents? Because I can tell you, there's a lot of traditional men out there that honestly do a great job, but I know they know when, and Gada, you alluded to it earlier, when to have gentle conversations and when to have very strict conversations. And I think sometimes some people convolute the authoritative parents versus authoritarian parents. And so we got to make sure that we align those two, because fear is not necessarily what you want from your kids, right? Especially as you're building and developing with them. You want them to have respect and love and kindness. And so when we look at the traditional mindset, it's like, when do I need to be strict? When do I need to be loving and gentle and kind? So it's a balance of both. So I can tell you, my kids have respect for me. And I think there's a healthy level of fear that, oh, I don't want to do stuff to get in trouble and to achieve the consequences, right? But I don't necessarily know that in a traditional mindset, having children fear you is necessarily healthy.
And can I ask you something?
Sir.
Are you religious?
Yes.
Okay. Are you Christian?
Yes.
Do you fear God?
Yes.
That's it. The reason why we should fear something is because you have to face the consequences if you do a certain action. So if you do this action, you're gonna have to face these consequences. We chose a religion as a part that we respect and a part that we fear. But for kids, they don't have the religion mind. They have a grown-up mind. They look up to us. To us, to them, we are their gods. So in the same way that they won't do something stupid because they know there's consequences, that we will do something to them. That's why fear in a healthy level is good. I'm not saying like to be super fearful, like when you go home and you put a strict face all the time. No, that's a healthy level of fear. It's not as it's fear and respect. Even now, I fear my dad. Right? I fear him like a hell lot.
I think guys, I think the better word is reverence, right? Reverence rather than fear. Reverence would be like the healthy side of that fear. So we revere,
To say like
revere, but reverence.
honor, revere. Look at that, that's reverence. But
You
see,
have that healthy, yeah.
sorry, but I agree with you. But here's the thing: that's what a lot of I would say let's say radically traditional people, okay, radically traditional men, as they're growing and developing their empires, they sometimes put on a or not put on, they sometimes develop a persona that you must I have reverence for me and fear me as if your life depended on it. For me, I feel as if that's not necessarily, and I'm not, I don't want to go on for too long because I tell you this needs to be another episode because this is good. But in terms of being God to a child, I'm not God. I'm their teacher. I'm their parent. That's the first thing I am to them. And so when and in that position, I hold something very different than any friend and anybody else can ever have in their life. So when I speak, it's very different than when a friend speaks. When I speak, it's very different than when how you say that? Somebody that is extremely successful in business. It's different. So when your dad speaks to you, that's on a whole totally different level than when somebody from the outside comes. So we have a different position, for me, in my opinion, than God in their life because their life doesn't necessarily depend on me. In my position, their life depends on God. And I am but one of the lucky vessels that God blessed with those children to help grow them, rear them, and teach them how to develop into these hopefully successful individuals under sometimes their own measuring stick. Um, and then I set them off. You see what I'm saying? So I guess we're saying the same thing. We say the same thing. I think I win that debate, but we're saying the same thing. I agree. I completely agree with a lot of things you're saying.
Different phrasing.
Different phrasing. Even with that though, I want to ask you this. If you were in a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people and you had the opportunity to share one golden nugget with them, something that they can take and really be practical with right now, what is something that you would take? Something that you would give to them at this moment?
This just happened to me recently, right? Not even recently, a few years back. But I've noticed in a period of my life, there's gonna be ups and downs. And I've used to quit before it gets up again. What I'm saying is to never give up. You usually hear this all the time, but I want to rephrase because never give up is so powerful because by the time I decided to not give up, my life took a turn. And I want you to notice this, the listeners out there, that you always reach a moment in your life where you feel like you want to give up. Just push it on further a little bit. You'll see how much it goes up. Because that's when God tests you, right? That's when God tests you, and if you pass that test, it's gonna skyrocket. That's my golden nugget.
Well, that is beautiful, Mr. Jeremy. Well, from Dad Squad Solutions, we would just want to say thank you for being one of our guests here today and just sharing all that you have shared today. You have shared so much wisdom, but you have left our listeners with perseverance. So thank you very much. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You have heard it from Jeremy himself, and he said, you guys just got to persevere. So if you guys have any thoughts, any trials, any tribulations that you guys might have experienced, please do drop that in the comment section down below, and would love to just engage with you guys and get to hear your thoughts on the topic as well. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and this channel. And from us, That's What Solutions. It's until next time in our next episode. Thank you very much, guys.